You've seen them. The channels pulling in millions, sometimes billions of views, and you have never once seen the creator's face. How is that possible? Is it some secret algorithm they've cracked? Or is there a hidden number, a single metric that separates the giants from the ghosts? Well, we're going to dig in and uncover the one public stat that tells the real story. So first, let's get a handle on just how big this is. We're not talking about a couple of small niche channels. No, this is a massive, invisible empire of content that is quietly dominating the platform. I mean, these channels completely flip the old idea of a YouTuber on its head. It proves you don't need to be some big on-screen personality when your content, the animation, the storytelling, the pure raw skill is the real star. And the numbers they're pulling in, they're absolutely staggering. All right, so who are these hidden giants? They cover all sorts of topics, sure, but the most successful ones, they tend to fall into a few core patterns, a few archetypes. Let's break them down. First up, you've got the animation and explainer channels, and their genius, it's taking these incredibly complex topics, we're talking quantum physics, black holes, you name it, and making them easy to understand and just visually stunning. You know the ones. Channels like Kurzgesagt or The Infographic Show, they are absolute masters of this game. Their whole success is built on insane production value. The animation isn't just some pretty decoration, it's the core of the storytelling. And that's exactly why they pull in these huge view numbers every single time. Okay. Next up is a category that has totally mastered the art of passive viewing. They create an atmosphere. You know, these are the channels you just leave on for hours.
And the king of this world is, of course, Lo-Fi Girl. Look, this whole model is engineered for one thing and one thing only: insane watch time. That simple visual loop, the non-stop music, it's designed for you to leave it on for hours on end. And that lets the channel rack up an incredible amount of view time from tens of thousands of people watching at the same time. All right, our third archetype. This one proves that sometimes you don't need fancy visuals. All you really need is a great story and a voice that pulls you in. Yeah, channels like Mr. Nightmare have absolutely perfected this with horror stories. The formula is simple, but man is it powerful. You take a really captivating voiceover, pair it with some moody B-roll footage, and boom. It's just incredibly effective at building a loyal audience that literally hangs on every word, just waiting for the next upload. And finally, we've got a category built on pure, raw skill, the process. It's the kind of thing that's just mesmerizing to watch, and you don't need a single word of narration.
I'm talking about titans of the platform, like Primitive Technology or Lockpicking Lawyer. The appeal here is totally universal because it's just skill, pure skill, shown from a first-person point of view. It's the ultimate show don't tell, and it leads to some of the most viral content, period. Okay, so we know who these giants are, but here's the thing. Just looking at their subscriber count, that doesn't tell you the whole story, not even close. To really get what's going on, we need to dig deeper. We need to find the right metric. And that brings us to the central problem. You see, the most important metric of all, audience retention, how long people actually watch, is private. Only the creator gets to see it. So for us, on the outside, trying to figure out a channel's real engagement, it's like we're trying to see in the dark.
But there is a way. There's a metric we can use, one that's built from data that's totally public. It's called the view to subscriber ratio, or VSR for short. And this one simple metric, it lets us see how a channel is really performing, giving us a huge clue about its actual reach and its true engagement.
The formula itself couldn't be simpler. You just take the average views of recent videos and divide it by the total number of subscribers. Easy. But the insights you get from that number is absolutely crucial. It tells you everything. Is a channel just preaching to its own followers? Or are its videos constantly breaking out and hitting a way bigger audience?
Okay, enough theory. Let's put this thing into action. What happens when we actually run the VSR numbers for those channels we were just talking about? Well, the results, they're pretty revealing.
And this is where the story gets really interesting. Just look at this table, right at the top. Primitive Technology, a VSR of over 1.2. That means, on average, his videos get more views than he has subscribers. That is pure, raw virality. Now look below that, Kurzgesagt, sitting at a very healthy 56%. In the middle, you got channels like Lo-Fi Girl and Mr. Nightmare in a solid 30 to 40% range. But then, look at the bottom, a behemoth channel like Brightside, 45 million subscribers, and their VSR, just 2%.
So what does all this data actually tell us? It tells us one thing, loud and clear. Subscriber count is not the same thing as influence. The VSR shows us a totally different and frankly a much more important measure of success.
And this chart right here just puts it all into sharp focus. On one end, you have the absolute explosive virality of Primitive Technology. In the middle, you've got the steady, high-engagement machine that is Kurzgesagt. And way down at the other end, you have the massive audience of Brightside, but with really low engagement on each new piece of content. We're looking at three totally different models of success, all laid bare by one simple ratio.
So here's a quick way to think about these numbers. If you see a VSR over 100%, that's insane. That's true virality. 40 to 70%, that's a sign of a really healthy, super engaged community, especially for a huge channel. But a VSR under 5%, that usually points to a channel with a giant subscriber list, sure, but very low stickiness for anything new they put out.
And that leaves us with one final, and I think critical question. What really measures success? Is it just having a massive audience, a giant subscriber number to brag about? Or is it having a deeply engaged one? The view to subscriber ratio seems to suggest that real influence isn't about how many people subscribe to you, it's about how many people consistently show up to watch.